What are you going to be looking for to make sure that the public-private partnership for executing vaccines once we get one is enacted in an efficient and equal way?
Well, I think the key is going to be whether or not the federal government really does provide some kind of national strategy to back up the money they're providing now. I think they've got to put together a strategy that makes clear that as these vaccines are developed, that there is a strategy for being able to deploy these vaccines to the country and, for that matter, to the world. This is going to be a huge task. So first job is try to get the vaccine, but the second job is develop a national strategy as to how you're going to implement that.
So let me follow up on that point, because right now, as scientists are racing to find a vaccination cure for this, the work is being done behind the scenes in government at both the top level and the bureaucratic level in order to efficiently create this system. What should they be doing to make sure that once there is a vaccine, that it can be executed?
Well, I think it's very important now that, and I hope that Dr. Fauci and others are obviously doing this, but I think it's very important to keep track of just exactly how many are in the game and how many are working towards a vaccine, and be able to have regular reports on progress being made. I think because of federal money being invested, because of the national importance of dealing with this issue, I think that the government has to keep track of whether or not progress is being made and how fast it's being made. That's kind of number one. Number two, I think it's very important to focus on just exactly how do we implement the distribution of this vaccine in a fair way. I mean, do we focus on healthcare workers first? Do we focus on those states that are in trouble? What's the priority list for how you would apply that vaccine? I don't know that if any work has been done on that aspect, but I think serious attention needs to be given to just exactly how do we apply this vaccine? Do we do it in a fair way? And what are the priorities that are important for the country?
Leon, when we talk about priorities for the country, so often in history books, you talk about in times of wartime, you really ramp up domestic production, not only of the production and distribution of vaccines, but PPE equipment, making sure that Americans are producing their own stuff so that we have enough of it. Are we doing enough on that front?
I don't believe so. I think the problem is that, initially the president did describe this as a war. I think he was right. It is a war. We've lost over 150,000 Americans as a result of this war. But there's a real sense that we're losing that war right now. And for that reason, I think, it is very important for the president to understand that, he can't just heckle the process. He is the president of the United States, and he should be developing a clear strategy that will back up those in the healthcare arena so that they have what they need in order to do this. He should have implemented the Defense Production Act a long time ago, providing the testing, providing the tracing, providing all of the necessary assistance that is required by all of the states in dealing with this pandemic. Instead, I've just had the feeling that he's kind of backed away from really exercising the kind of strong leadership that should have been exercised in facing a major crisis.
Leon, I think that cities and states across this country are also facing another crisis, not only as it comes to rising COVID cases, but then, of course, with protests and trying to deal with police reform and having respect for Black Lives Matter, but then also having a fair look as well at some of the police officers and the police forces on the ground. How are you balancing the two? What do you think is the right strategy for local police officers?
Well, there's no question this is a tricky time trying to balance all of these different needs. But the key is to work together. That I think has been the basic formula for how our democracy has survived, is because we've been willing to work together towards a common goal. And in this situation, I think it's important for the federal government not to kind of impose itself, but to develop a partnership with state and local government with regards to how do we best try to obviously maintain law and order, but at the same time, try to implement some of the reforms that are necessary in order to meet all of the criticisms that have been raised as a result of what we've seen on racial inequality in this country. I don't think it's a matter of having to make a choice between one or the other. I think it really is the ability to kind of sit down and work together to be able to address these issues. That's what's needed now more than ever.
Secretary Panetta, earlier I spoke with Tony Blinken, who of course is a former Deputy National Security Advisor in the Obama administration and now a senior advisor for the Biden campaign on foreign policy issues. I spoke with him a lot about China, but I want to get your reaction to something that President Trump said and conducted earlier this week, and that's with troop withdrawal with regards to Germany. Thousands of U.S. troops, the president has said, should come home or be relocated to other parts around the world. Is that a smart foreign policy decision, and what does it mean for the Western alliance?
Well, I'm very concerned by that decision. I'm more concerned, frankly, about the way this president is dealing with Vladimir Putin and his inability to confront Putin on major issues that that Russia is implementing in order to undermine our country. I mean, we can't lose sight of the fact that Russia's primary goal, and Putin, as a former KGB agent, his primary goal is to undermine the United States of America, to weaken us, to weaken our institutions. And yet, not having the president address these issues, whether it's what they're trying to do to interfere with our elections, whether it's the idea that they would be providing bounties on men and women in uniform out in the field, or whether it's now the president deciding to withdraw troops from the NATO region, all of that is a gift to Putin. The message going to Putin is that the United States is weak. And that really concerns me because it basically is saying to Putin, go ahead and take advantage of this situation. That's why they went into the Crimea. That's why they went into Syria. That's why they're conducting election interference in this country. That's why they're doing what they're doing, is because they don't feel that anybody is going to check them. And so the problem right now is the failure of this president to be strong in dealing with Putin and letting him know where the lines are.